Today to show off the new Machina support utilizing a bunch of the new spell and trap support. The deck is actually a lot better. In fact, there was a card that I didn't even think about, which is the Machina Soldier. This card becomes infinitely more relevant because you're able to special summon any other Machina monster from your hand. Which there's a lot of the Machina monsters that require some type of condition to be met to special summon them, but this card can just bring out anything. Air Raider is usually your go-to turn 1 card, but now with Mega Form with Soldier, when this card is activating its effect, you contribute this card to special summon any Machina monster from your hand or deck except for itself, which is excellent, right? And then a face-up Machina Fortress you control is sent to the graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step. You get to banish that Machina Fortress and then special summon this card. Now, that is not actually a downside. Normally you wouldn't want to get rid of Machina Fortress because you usually special summon that card over and over. It was the old Machina boss monster, but now you can actually utilize the recyclability of one of the cards and put that card right back in, so it's not really minus at all. So it adds more utility to Mega Form. We also have Overdrive over here. This is one of the other newer cards. We're able to instantly just pop one of your machine monsters you control, and you could just special summon a Machina monster with a different name from your hand or deck, and then destroy that target. So basically you're able to dodge certain things. If they're trying to get rid of your general via banishing it, you can just go ahead and say no, pop it, and then go ahead and bring out another card. Or if you have another card that your opponent is targeting or doing something to, you basically dodge that and get out your general, and then you're pretty much good to go. But this card also has another effect, where you get to banish this card from your graveyard, target 3 of your machine monsters that are banished or in your graveyard, shuffle them, and then draw 1. So that's one of the new cards that really helps out this deck a ton over here. And I also want to show you guys some of my replays, but some of the replays are from my homie Chad over here, and we'll go ahead and go over like a brief little deck profile of like both over here so you guys can kind of get an idea on maybe the ratios on some of the cards if you want to play. There's also another new card that I really like a lot, which is the Machina Defense Region. If you happen to open up bad, this card just kind of makes your bad hands worse, but if you happen to have a playable hand, this really adds a lot more consistency to your deck over here. So what this card allows you to do is, while you control a level 7 or higher machine monster, your opponent can't target level 6 or lower machine monsters you control with card effects, and their monsters cannot target them for attacks. Which is kind of nice because if you go for Peacekeeper or Scrap Recycler, you usually don't want those to take a lot of damage. So what you can do is utilize this card for that. But the other effect of this card is the effect that I actually like a lot, and that is, if a face-up machine monster you control is destroyed by battle by card effect, you get to target one machine monster graveyard and add it back to your hand, so you get to recycle some of your cards. And a lot of decks just simply can't keep up with the speed that the new Machina boss monster has, which is the Machina Colonel over here. And his effect, which you guys have probably seen when I previously uploaded it, but his effect is insane. He gets to pop any machine up on the board, and then you destroy all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. And since he's 3,000, that pops anything that's 3,000 or under on your opponent's board. And that's a Regeki effect. It gets rid of everything. So that's why it's so good. It's like a Karunix that you can just activate as a quick effect. It's so dang good to dodge things with. And then on top of that, when this card is destroyed about when a Machina, a face-up Earth machine monster you control, except for itself, is destroyed by battle by card effect, and it's in your graveyard, you get to re-special summon this card. So it just comes back over and over again, because most of this Machina stuff you're going to be popping, and if they just attack it by battle, you're going to be good to go too. And Machina Soldier also technically allows rank 4 plays, which I'll get into in a little bit here. I just want to show off the replays, just so you guys can kind of get an idea on how the deck can play. In this version, you guys are also seeing Trade-In, which I think is a good draw power card. I've also seen a lot of people use Extravagance, which I'm really liking in the deck. I think it's great because the levels are very awkward. You can go into some rank 10 plays, which is quite cool, but most of the time it doesn't come up. You can go for rank 8 plays if you want to play Radiator. I actually dislike this card a lot because it just doesn't come up as often. Its effect is to discard another Machina monster, special summon this card from your hand, then you can target a machine monster you control, and special summon another Machina monster from your graveyard. A lot of times that's more of a win harder because you're already pretty much set up, right? But at the end of the day, it still has a useful effect, but then you destroy the targeted monster, and then you can proc your general's effect. But it just requires too much of a setup, And the new support does try to help this become more relevant, but again, once this card gets its effect activated, it's just game over for a lot of different decks. They just, again, can't keep up with it, because once they get rid of it, and a lot of people have Regeki'd me, Lightning Storm, it just doesn't matter. The card comes back, and then they're just like, oops. It's pretty funny when you watch your opponent rage quit on you, simply due to that. Now, this one over here is a mirror match. But we're also going to see Metal Crunch over here, where it's like if you control no face-up cards, you get to normal summon it, and then you get to reveal 3 Earth Machine monsters, and your opponent randomly picks one, and then it adds it to your hand. So if you just target 3 of the same whatever, you're just getting that card guaranteed anyways, which normally comes down to Aerator, because that's the optimal turn 1. The best turn 1 plays for the deck usually revolve around Aerator and discarding the Colonel, and then you go ahead and so in Machina Fortress, and then you'll also have Colonel on your turn, and he goes ahead and pops his opponent's board, and he's just like GG. I thought this was a good mix-up. I would probably include this in a lot of different decks, just because it has that potential to just absolutely game someone. If someone's playing a very specific deck, and they need that one card that maybe is at 1, that just it opens up the doors for a GG, and it kind of has some utility over here. It is a 9, so you can maybe kind of make use of it if you want to go for more Exceed plays. But I got another replay over here, and then I'm going to show you guys a different build. Now this is Time Thief Dangers, which could actually be a really good deck. I would consider this very, very high tier. If you guys haven't played against it, it has a pretty good Spiral matchup too. But for the most part, the Machina deck doesn't really have, I would say, the greatest Spiral matchup, because it needs a lot of effects. While the monsters do have decent attack, it's just not going to go on, because you're just going to get the card banished for the most part. Try to get Wizard. It's still a pretty good card, but nonetheless, the deck I still think is relatively viable, because now he's going to go ahead and chain Colonel. Colonel's just going to go ahead and pop, rip his field, and then he's going to go ahead and be able to attack. Another thing I want to mention with Aerator, always put in attack position. You're going to go ahead and activate its effect by popping itself most of the time anyways. You can pop other things, but I usually like to pop Aerator and get extra 1,500 points of damage in. I mean, yeah, you could save this and then pop something else like you guys are seeing in this replay, but I still think it's not bad at all to go ahead and actually play more aggressive with it. That's a play that I think a lot of people do utilize, or don't utilize is what I should say. But nonetheless, he's going to limit removal his opponent. And this card is so sacky in the deck. I love it, though. But anyways, I want to go ahead and show you guys some other things that you guys can do. And utilize in the deck some extra tech cards. This card is absolutely insane in this deck. So, like I mentioned before, Aerator is pretty much your go-to play turn 1, and usually I will go ahead and go Aerator and then pop itself, and then go for a Fortress, and then also be bringing back the Colonel. And then on top of that, I'll be able to re-bring back Aerator. And since Aerator is 8, I can instantly just resummon Machina Fortress if I want to go ahead and Link Summon or do whatever. It really allows those plays to go on. But in addition to that, another thing, since it is a quick effect, one thing that I really like to do is utilize this effect to pop other things. You don't always have to pop itself. Like, for example, this guy is running a card that's going to float into another card, and then I'm going to go ahead and Colonel and pop this because it's already activated its effect, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and activate this effect, and I can go ahead and re-summon it, but I can go ahead and try to chain block if I want to go ahead and try to block certain things, but I'm just going to go ahead and re-summon the card anyways, and at that point, we'll be kind of a-okay. He survives with 50 life points, unfortunately. None of these cards we're going to be able to game him, but nonetheless, he goes ahead and Torrential Tributes, and it doesn't even matter because Colonel gets to go ahead and special summon Colonel gets that effect where he gets to re-special summon itself, and then this adds back the Machina Fortress, because I could technically add back this card also, and I could just discard it and then summon Fortress again. Like, you guys can see that the Metal Snake in this deck is definitely prime, and I think it's one of the best cards that I've added into this deck. I'd honestly probably want to run 3. It just allows you to have a play where your opponent might want to stop, and I just like this card in general. It's just a great card going second, first. It's like, I don't know, it's like my other Pinkatrops, because it does have another effect to pop, which is kind of nice, and it comes up once in a while. But I want to show you guys a few other plays that can maybe help you guys out if you guys are playing. This guy is playing some type of really strange deck. I thought it was interesting now that I have actually finally seen it. It's an Elemental Grace Doriado deck. So what it does is it tries to negate every single thing that your opponent does, and it goes through a bunch of vanilla cards. It's not the easiest thing to pull off, but I basically stop him because of the awesome effect. Now, I also want to mention there is a pretty good play that you can utilize with the Scrap Engine. If you want to play the Scrap Recycler, it is quite great. I go ahead and just pop everything with just the gear frame, and since he's running a bunch of low monsters, it's just going to go ahead and be game immediately from there. I don't need to really go into anything else. But there's one play in particular, I believe it's this one that I wanted to share with you guys. Actually, no, this one's a troll. I'll show you guys that one after. So it was him not really understanding Kernel. A lot of people don't understand how it works, and that's why it's really good to play right now. And it's good to know about this deck because I think it's a very budget-friendly deck. So one thing you can do with Scrap Recycler is obviously go ahead and dump Kernel, or you can dump Fortress. Those are your prime targets most of the time. In this instance, I went ahead and reborn Kernel, which I don't need to do. All I really need to do, because I wanted to, my play was actually to keep aerated. There's a kind of a misplay here, but I wanted to explain this. So first off, a better play would have actually been to just go ahead and make the Scrap Wyvern, and then actually get Kernel's effect by popping my own card, which I'm going to have to do anyways with Scrap Recycler, and then that's going to go ahead and allow me to get that card out for free. So I technically should have had this card out with the Reborn after this play. So the play should have actually looked like this, where Aerator is still up on the board. It was a slight mistake, but I wanted to show you guys how to utilize Scrap Wyvern, because it is really good. Unfortunately, I do have to pop one of my own other cards on the board, but nonetheless, it's still really good. To go ahead and utilize this Scrap Wyvern, because it has that awesome effect of being able to special summon and pop another card, which lets you bring back out General. And then the rest of the plays doesn't really matter at this point, because it's just going to go ahead and just bring back that Scrap Recycler. And then also Scrap Recycler has that awesome ability to go ahead and bring back another card, but it doesn't really matter at this point, because you guys already know it's game over, because with no monsters on the field, easy claps. And then this one is a troll duel over here versus the guy. Again, I just think that he didn't really understand how this deck worked. But in this build, I'm playing Indulgence and Desires. I'm kind of just testing out what really works in the deck, because I feel like you definitely need to draw some type of extra draw power for maybe a Veiler or a Impermanent. You can kind of have like dodging, but you have only one real like disruption to stop your opponent from doing something, if that makes sense, because Machina Fortress actually has a really good effect where it kind of protects itself. This card kind of protects your cards too, but only really protects the smaller ones. But if they target Machina Fortress, you get to just go ahead and check out their hand and get rid of one of their cards. If they destroy it by battle, you get to target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. But again, the only disruption is really with Citadel. I'm sorry, that's the OCG Machina Kernel. He tries to go ahead and mind control it, and then he ends up getting his board gets wiped, but then he changes Super Poly, the first copy of Super Poly, and then he goes ahead and makes Shakanaga over here, and then he's going to go ahead and put Dragon's effect to work and go ahead and pop Permanents. I'm going to go and chain Impermanents and hit this card over here. Then he goes ahead and I don't know the point of the Super Poly here. It just, again, didn't make any sense, because remember, he cannot target my Scrap Recycler, and I think the reason why I couldn't Recycler effect is because I used Indulgence, which makes it so you can't draw any more times, which kind of hurts Recycler. That's why I'm kind of like, I was like, well, Desires, you know, is a pretty great card already, which I am also playing. I'm also playing evenly because I don't really like going second with this deck that much, and it just helps out with consistency over here. But also, yeah, this card is basically protected because he has to attack the Machina Fortress, because when control 7 or higher, your opponent can't target level 6 or lower with card effects, and they can't attack them. So he's going to go ahead and, I guess, well, this card doesn't really matter. I mean, if his card survives, awesome, but if he decides to attack my Machina Fortress can go ahead and pop a card, then I'm going to bring back my Kernel anyway, so it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, he activates Super Poly. I checked, oh, no, it doesn't really matter, because he can't go into anything. His option is to make another Shakanaga, which doesn't really matter, which he didn't have. I can't click on it now, but the thing is that the other option, and I think his only option at this point, was to go into Winda, which Winda would be terrible, because what is Winda going to do? I only need to summon one time, and it's going to be popping his board anyways, and then have another Extravagant set over here for, I don't know, some bluffs. But anyways, I want to give a shout out to my homie Chad. I'll go over like kind of both of the different builds here. I'm kind of still in the testing phases, trying to mess around with different ratios, but I honestly feel like you don't really need Desires. Desires, losing out on this card really sucks. I would probably drop Desires completely and just play 3 Extravagants. I don't really use the extra deck. I use this card the most frequently, but it does come up where you maybe can go ahead and make the Juggernaut Libe. And you can also use the Rail Cannon. You can definitely go for OTKs. I brought up this card a lot more when I played Radiator, but I don't like Radiator. I didn't feel like it was a really great card, so I'm not really utilizing it. And I honestly didn't like Metal Crunch that much. I just kind of prefer the Scrap Recycler engine. I thought that was really nice. I really like the card that protects as well. It just happens to be able to add back the card. I was also mentioning around with Torrential Tribute just because I can pop my own machines. If I open up bad, it's still like an okay-ish card because it can board wipe, right? But what I really liked in the deck is not only having access to being able to get rid of things with Kernel, but I also really liked running a lot of hand traps just because I'm able to, let's say, if I go at Kernel Pop, it's pretty devastating, but most people can play around like one disruption, right? Even though you can tag out your cards like with Aerator, or you could utilize that new trap card, the Overdrive, to dodge things, you really only have Kernel to go ahead and stop your opponent from doing what they want to do, if that makes any sense. And again, I just think that that's not good enough for Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2020. This is also another really fantastic card that can really help you survive, but again, there's no disruption in the deck. So I think that adding a lot of hand traps, like that's why I'm playing 3 Vela, 3 Ash. We were originally playing 50, but I could probably cut this down to maybe like 2-2 and then drop. A lot of other cards could go to 2 as well. It's just to have more access to being able to stop my opponent from getting their plays off, and then we have that limiter for sack. But cards I can really recommend, I think Extravagance is great in the deck, and I also think Metal Stake is really, really good in the deck. It's just so nice to be able to attack, and then you could go and pop like your other opponent's stuff and then resummon the card instantly again. Great stuff indeed. So I really recommend this card. Scrap Recycler for the Scrap Wyvern plays allows you to go ahead and general without requiring you to go for Aerator, so I like that play. It also allows you to play more aggressive with Kernel, because you can make a Kernel on your turn versus getting Kernel out on their turn, if that makes any sense, because they destroy one of your machines. So it lets you play more aggressive. I liked that. I'll mouse over the stuff really quick. Call by the Grave is kind of a disruption as well. And because sometimes you really need that search out with Gear Frame, or more importantly, this card, if it doesn't go through, where you're able to discard one to add the double Machina monsters, or add the double Machina monsters, or the Machina cards. Excellent stuff indeed. And then usually what you want to try to do is get rid of Overdrive, because Overdrive has that effect in the graveyard. But I think they need a few extra cards to become a little bit more meta. But as far as the extra deck goes, I'll mouse over and really just make this card. But this card comes up once in a while, just like, you know, all decks can make use of Phoenix and Cerberus. But I think I moused over all the ones in this build, but I want to go ahead and show off my homie Chad's build over here, because his was pretty cool too. And I didn't even think about Soldier. The reason why is because I originally tried Soldier back when the deck first got introduced. There's also another card I want to mention, which is the Malefactor's Command, which lets you target a machine monster you control, and you get to equip an appropriate Union monster. And that is utilized with the Peacekeeper over here. So this is a Union, and when it does allow you to kind of protect your board a little bit more, because it lets you equip it, and while it's equipped, you're able to go ahead and not only resummon it, and maybe go for some link plays, but honestly this deck doesn't really need the extra deck. But if it's just from the field, it's from the field and sent to the graveyard, you get to have that effect to add one Union monster from your deck to your hand. So most of the time what you're going to do with that is go for your Gear Frame effect, which is this guy over here. But I feel like with the consistency of the new card where you get to search out, I just felt like Peacekeeper was way too slow, and I just really didn't like it personally. But that is one of the other newer support cards that we didn't really get to cover here. And then this card was activated, it's just there was probably too many things going on. But when this card is no more special, you get to target a Machina monster in your graveyard and summon it in defense position. It cannot activate its effects this turn, which is really the downside with this card. But you can go ahead and bring back just like another monster, and then just use it for, I guess, if you really want to go ahead and go for link plays. I like this card when I was trying to really utilize the scrap plays, because it's just needing another monster in general, and it kind of just helps out. It also allows Mega Form to be a little bit better here. But anyways, also Foolish could be an okay-ish option, just because it's any machine monster that gets destroyed. You can instantly just summon a 3K, and it can pop your opponent's board, which is really good at the end of the day. But I think we've pretty much covered what was important in the deck. He also played Trade-In as draw power instead of the Extravagance. If you want to, you can go ahead and play this. I mean, it's not that bad. Again, because remember, you're able to go ahead and instantly search out the cards that you need. So maybe you could just utilize both, and then that way you wouldn't have to play Desires. I think it's a great option. This is what he was playing in the extract. That's a really good card. That should probably be in mine as well. I'm just checking his out for the first time over here, because he didn't really make any use of the extra deck. Because again, I don't really feel like you need it. I think Extravagance is a fantastic card. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, drop a like on it. If you are new here, hit subscribe, turn on that bell if you want to see more Yu-Gi-Oh gameplays and deck profiles. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one, and we out. Peace.